into our industry too with like that sharing of knowledge. It's like, if someone's doing it right, then they're surrounding themselves with people that are better than them, and then they're getting a bunch of information. And if they're doing the right thing, I feel like then there's probably someone at a different level at them that they're sharing that knowledge with.
What up, y'all? I'm Steve, and welcome to another exciting Elev8, where we sit down with some cool ass artists in this industry. First, we have this really cool ambassador program. You can join as an Elev8 doll or an Elev8 chant, and it's really awesome. You get to help us build Elev8. It's super unique, super special, and you're really a part of something special. Check out Elev8ambassador.com to learn more. Another cool thing we have is our Elev8 Veterans program. I'm really honored to be a part of it. Teresa helps run it, and it's super awesome. We get to rehabilitate and reacclimate veterans into society our way. And you know what? I think we're doing it right. Go check it out at Elev8veterans.com. Third, there's Elev8 Bingo. It's super cool, super fun, and we get to show you more of what we do. And on top of that, every game there's a chance to win $50 credits for Elev8glassgallery.com. Go check it out. And now, let's roll into this super awesome Elev8. Welcome to Elev8. We got decalcified glass here, and thank you so much for joining me today, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure.
Yeah, likewise, man. Hey, and so we'll just get right into it. And I want to know, how did you get into this glass game? It's freaking crazy, man, and you're doing it. So how'd you do this?
It's a pretty interesting story. So probably 2014, 2015, I was in college studying horticulture, and my professor there, she was like just an old head. She blew glass, and she made marbles and pendants and stuff, no pipes, anything like that, just like selling to your grandma and stuff like that. So she was really into the marble game as well. So, but she followed a few like pipe makers and stuff. So, her and I did some like, used to do like, wire wrapping and shit like that. Like, my start in art is I'm a painter. That's kind of where that was my first kind of real medium to play with. And, so I did a trade with her. And she gave me some seconds so I could wire wrap them and kind of hide some defects and to play around. And then she's like, you should really check out the pipe scene. And I'm like, okay. And she, she told me about like Mike Gong and a couple other like artists to go check out. And like, so I like Googled Mike Gong and like saw some marbles and stuff like that. And then, I worked for a delivery service, and some buddies of mine got the same idea, like they were going to start their own delivery service. So they started doing that. And then this is kind of like the time of Instagram galleries. And so still just with the recommendation, a little artist I found on Instagram, still didn't know anything about glass. And my buddies, they were going to Costa Rica to Elbow's pool party to go purchase a big piece. It was a Jurassic World by Boom Falaise and Hoobs glass.
Yeah.
And they invited me to go on this Costa Rica trip with them. Like, hey, come check out the glass, blah blah blah. I had no idea anything about it, and they're like, buy plane tickets, $420, and we'll take care of everything else. Just obviously pay your way when you're there, but. Mm-hmm. I went to the glass show, and randomly they linked up with Ruzi from Peace of Mind OC, and he kind of helped make that exchange happen for my buddies. And we joke around about today, like we were like in their room in Costa Rica, and my buddies were getting like doing the kind of the exchange and money and stuff. And like, I was joking around and like, they're like, okay, we're going to give you this kid and this cash, and you're going to give us the glass. And, that's when I met Boom Falaise, Hoobs, and Ruzi. And after that, we got back, it was really intimate show. Mm-hmm. So I kind of got a taste for it, got to see some crazy glass. Got back from Costa Rica. I went on tour. I used to do a lot of live painting at music festivals and things
Oh,
like
wow.
that. So I got back from like, I was traveling for Costa Rica and then not doing all that, got back and I connected with Ruzi, and he happened to live like 10 minutes away from my parents. And so
What a
like
small world, right?
yeah, exactly. I had to go to Costa Rica to meet him and boom and stuff. And so he was opening his shop like in a few months after, like,
I remember
after
that.
that. And so I was like, hey, I'm kind of looking for a job. I'm kind of looking to ground back in Orange County for a bit. And so, I started working for him. I got a mural before they even had like the cases in the store. So, I've got to see like that, store develop. We're talking like I'm working for the shop, like pre-Instagram, like kind of days, like no story modes existed. Like,
the whole marketing world of everything is just changing daily. You mentioned galleries and then stories and now there's reels, like everything's changing. And you started in about 15 is when you got bit, right?
Yeah. 2015 was my first taste of it. I believe it was. Yeah. And so, I feel blessed. I got to work in the retail, the storefront of it all for a bit. So I got to learn how to sell glass and have relationships with shops. Kind of before I was always doing my art and my painting and like making products, every once in a while I make, smoking kind of accessories like dab mats, dabbers, just kind of things that were like rudimentary kind of thing.
Right.
And then, through that shop, they have a little studio in the front there. And the manager, she goes by May Gun Glass. And, she taught me a lot. Like she, working for her, but like getting little glass blowing lessons here and there. I'd be like, hey, are you free? Like this day I'll come in on my day off. Like, you think you give me a lesson? And then,
would you consider her a mentor in a sense then?
Yeah, I would say so. And then there's my friend Wybot Glass. He would also come in, weekly or bi-weekly sometimes and blow glass.
All right.
And so like those two glass blowers were like I've had like the most like one-on-one like lessons with. And kind of just gave me like some basic fundamentals, and like Boone Falaise as well has really helped me out like throughout the years. And
he's an amazing glass blower. I've watched him blow up throughout the whole thing, literally.
That guy's a wizard.
Yes. Yes.
But so he's really helped me out. And then they do a lot of shows and they do a lot of demos. So I met a lot of glass blowers through that time, and I wasn't really blowing glass then. I was just kind of like, it's always been like a hobby kind of, and like working for the shop. And at that time, my intention for that was to like learn how to blow glass.
Right.
I wasn't just there for like a job. It was like, no, I want to learn this trade. Like I want to learn how to do that.
And that probably gave you good fundamentals to see it at first and see what kind of techniques that you like and just see a lot of stuff, and as well as get familiar with blowers and what they were doing, and to find your own art.
Exactly. I kind of just like sat back and observed, worked in the scene, but kind of really observe it for the first like 3 years, I'd say. Yeah. Of that. And then I was kind of dabbling in. I like to do a lot of cold working hand carving.
And I noticed that what I see you do, a lot of people, they just like cut it out on a plotter or something, put it on there and sandblast it. You're actually carving all your designs in there.
Yeah, it's all hand carving. I use like a flex shaft machine and a diamond bits. And so just a little background of my art and my work. The primary subject of my body of work is mandalas. And like that's kind of like this pattern behind me.
It's crazy.
This is another piece I made. It has real
Did you make that?
Real gemstones. Yeah, it has different LED settings to it. It was a collaboration with my friends over at Laser Trees. So it has like multiple dimensions to it.
That's freaking amazing.
Gemstones, real gold there. Has its own like little Wi-Fi, so you can kind of adjust to it. But so
Just amazing, brother.
thank you. So the patterns, little history on them. Mandalas in Sanskrit means circle, and so it just means like concentric circles. Mandalas can be made up of squares as well, but it's all in a radiant kind of circles. Like you still find a circle in a square.
Right.
So so I take these mandalas and I kind of bring it to any medium as well. So a lot of times in my carving, I carve mandalas as well in it. And then I live out in Joshua Tree, we have a little 8-acre plot, just me and my girlfriend and my dog. So I'm submersed in a lot of nature. So every once in a while, I throw my little nature scenes into the carving and stuff. But yeah.
How did you get into the mandalas and stuff like that? What drew you to that?
So something just kind of always just drew me to these patterns. It's just kind of very it's an intuitive pattern. Like if you try to think too much about creating a mandala, it becomes too complex and stuff. A lot of times mandalas, they are created from your heart. So if you come at it with an open heart and instead of very cerebral, then you can kind of unlock, and you can go by each step. And it's I always think of it as one decision, and then you just repeat that a bunch of times. And it's just of a curve. How do I manipulate a line? Do I make it straight, an angle? Do I curve it? Do I make it wavy, make a lotus pat? And it's just
it's just a line.
Other side. And then it's that's your first petal, and then you copy that a bunch of times around. So, in college, yeah. So in college, it kind of just, I was always drawn to it. And then I was down in Newport Beach in 2013 at this sandwich spot, and I look in this magazine, and it's this boom, mandalas, and this artist named Cryptic, and it's just I can't remember even what the article said, but it was just basically join the cryptic movement. And it was I was whoa, this is an artist that is whole career subject matter is mandalas. And so that kind of went down a rabbit hole, and I started drawing them, painting them in all these different ways. And then I've taken multiple mandala workshops from this artist named Paul Husenstan.
Okay.
I believe he's in his late 70s, 80s, just he lives down in Laguna Beach, and he owns mandalas.com. I've taken a workshop from him in the Esalen Institute in Big Sur, which is this big kind of, I don't know, metaphysical, old, Alan Watts, Terrence McKenna, all these big, big people names and stuff have done workshops, and they used to gather there in the 60s and stuff.
Do you feel by taking that class with that guy that you learned more knowledge through him than maybe you would have even through college?
Oh yeah, definitely. I had my own basic foundation of my mandala work before then. It was kind of established, and but just taking his class just really gave me a lot of the language to describe my experience working with mandalas. And then for instance, I didn't even actually paint a mandala in his class because I was kind of already been doing it. By that time I had probably had 100 hours of painting mandalas underneath my belt. And so I actually painted deities with him, which is this Ganesh right here behind me. I actually painted that at his workshop. And then I did a workshop at his house. I've probably taken 3 or 4 workshops from him now.
Right.
And it's just it just helps me start my own workshops. I could do my own mandala workshops and things like that. And so tying my mandalas into my glass. So it's I was working on this body of like work for, I started that in probably like 2013, 2014 ish.
Okay.
And then, going to like working for Peace of Mind, then like moving on from there, I taught yoga. I still teach yoga a bit. So,
Nice.
Working from the smoke shop. And then I was like, I just transitioned to teaching yoga full time and doing my art full time.
Sorry to interrupt you. It sounds like you've really been good at finding what you like and honing in on that and then doing it.
Yeah, exactly. So that's just kind of like, I already like, it was like developing my style. Like if you look at me, like I got like kind of just like a style about me. Like I make sweatshirts, I make apparel. There's all like a custom bleach work, stuff like that. So it's like,
oh, you made that shirt with like bleaching it out or something?
Yeah. I have some cool like techniques, wow. And I do my own plastisol screen printing, like here and stuff. So I know how to like design products and like add my style to things now. And so I had an art studio. I was kind of living out of this warehouse art studio down in Costa Mesa. It's called Location 1980.
All right.
And it was mostly visual artists, like painters there. And so I was closing up this big body of work that I'd been working on for 7 years or something like that. And I was having this solo show where I filled the whole gallery, and it was all my solo work, and it was a pretty big gallery. And I did so
what a commitment, man. 7 years. That's a long time to put in something before you do something.
And I really wanted to like start blowing glass and doing that, but I was like, I gotta finish this work. Mm-hmm. And so I got this studio space. I got into this gallery. We had this awesome show. Like I started actually doing a few little carving stuff, like, friends with glass blowers, they'd kick me down with some stuff and do some little collabs. And like, even at that time, I talked to the owner, and he was like cool with me kind of setting up a little glass thing there. And we're kind of get the ball rolling, but we had to like, okay, we got to do this solo show. Mm-hmm. And then I can like hone in on my glass work, like what I've been really like this fire that's been in the back of my head for, 3 years or something like that, or like 5 years since I started working for since Costa Rica or whatever. So I had this awesome, amazing show. And it was great. And then it was a month long, and this is 2020. And that was February 15th, 2020. And then we're going to have a closing show. So with the work that I sold during that show, then I brought out new work that was like in the vaults. And those were going to be on display because we had new wall space, right? Open wall space from some things that sold. And for instance, like this piece behind me, I just went up to Grass Valley, made this piece with my friend, and like we were going to display it. And it was just like this boom. And it was going to be like this closing show. And that was the first weekend of lockdown.
Right.
And so, show gets canceled. I have an apocalyptic plan to go out to Joshua Tree to a family's house out here. That it was like my grandparents, they kind of got older, couldn't live here by themselves anymore. So they had to move away. So it's kind of like a vacation house for my family. But it was always my apocalyptic plan. So I came out here with my girlfriend, and my family was like, hey, we don't see anything getting better, and you can stay if you like. We both taught yoga. Nice. So all the yoga studios were closed down. So it's kind of, we're in limbo. And, my family was gracious enough. They didn't want me to blow my savings on just trying to make rent for those few months, just when no one knew what was going on. So
right.
We came out here, kind of settled down in Joshua Tree, California, and I got a garage. So I cut a hole in my garage, put a fan in. My grandma was okay with me doing that, and built out a studio. So graciously, little backtrack, my horticulture teacher, Valerie Lowe was her name. Back when we did that little trade, she was like, I have all these, like, I already sold all like my expensive, nice tool stuff. But I just have all this, like, random tools and color and rods. It's just like, I just don't feel like it's just worth selling to. I'd rather give it to somebody that would actually use it. So, 3 years later.
Do you still have some of the tools and stuff?
Yeah. So 3 years later, I emailed her and was like, hey, I'm working at this glass gallery in Peace of Mind, Newport Beach. You should come check it out. In the back of my head, like, I wonder if she still has those tools. And then she's like, hey, yeah, I have a bunch of tools. Do you want them? And I'm like, yes. Like, it was just like, so she brought me all this tools, raw materials, and that was my foundation. Like,
that's really cool, man. I bet she feels cool about that, to be able to help out.
Yeah. I haven't really talked to her since that was probably like 2006, 17, maybe. Yeah, I haven't really talked to her. So I would like to send her some photos and stuff. There's a shout out to OC Marble Show in Fullerton. It's this old show. It's in Fullerton at this hotel, and it's only marbles. It used to start off as like old marbles. Like, you couldn't sell like any old marbles. It had to be like old collector marbles. And so it was a collector show.
Right.
And then, I think Christina Cody kind of got in there back in the day, and she was like one of the first new marble makers. And so she kind of like took over the show a little bit, started bringing in new marble makers, kind of changed the show a little bit over the years. And now Keys Glass, he runs the OC Marble Show. And so that's in Fullerton. That's where I was going to college. I believe that's where my old horticulture teacher used to live. So I might hit her up and be like, hey, maybe come out to the show she hadn't known of the show.
Yeah.
So, but
isn't it nuts? A marble, like I was just at a little event, and some lady come up and it's like, what are these for? I'm like, they're marbles. They're just for looking at. Like, you could throw it at a thief, but it's nothing more than eye candy, like a painting. What is a painting for? It's for looking at. Yeah. It's a painting in glass with a thing. And I think marbles are just, it's neat when there's a group of people that understand it and appreciate marbles. Like, it's like watching a bunch of geeks just geek out over this stuff.
Totally.
I love it, man. I freaking love marbles.
I mean, I think that's what like art is. You know what I mean? It's just like something that can catch your eye and just like suck you into it. And like, that's what like paint, like for instance, mandalas, like they're meditation tools. Like, the practice of making mandalas is a meditation. Like, that's where like Buddhist monks make mandalas. Famous mandalas that Buddhists make are like the sand mandalas. And then it's just, super tedious and very detailed. And then they destroy it after. And that's a whole, ritual in itself. But like when mandalas, like when you stare at them, where they suck you in and you like end up staring at them, like that's the meditation. That's it doing its job. Like, a Buddhist will go up to a mandala painting and then like bow to it because it looks at it as a temple.
Right.
And so I kind of think
it's
of
that person's energy they put out there to make it, and it was their own temple, maybe.
And I think of that as like the same thing in a marble. Maybe it's not as like necessarily deep spiritual, like, backing to it, but it's like, if we can take your focus and attention for just 3 seconds or 10 seconds it is, and you creates a little meditation, a little break in your mind, and just like, like, how did somebody create this?
How did they get that in there? It's the basic number one question, and it's just amazing. Like, how did they do it? How did they do it?
Yeah. And so like what you're just tying in, like painting to glass, like you're just talking about, a marble and a painting, they're very various items. And then when it comes to a pipe, it adds that function to it. It's like, yeah, I can add some art to it, but it's like I can have a function to it. And one thing I always felt glass was amazing, like working in a head shop, that I would like to like customers about, was like, I've never seen an item that somebody wears and tears like glass, uses every single day, makes it filthy. And then depending on who made it, that piece can increase in value. Like,
Right.
I've seen people increase in thousands or hundreds, but like I always use an example as like, you buy a car, the second you drive it off the lot, it decreases you.
Right.
Maybe
Except this crazy time right now that they pandemic,
exactly,
right? Because this is not real.
Exactly. Minus like, the most recent times inflation, like my friend bought a brand new car and later it was like worth 10 more grand, but
boom, it's not
like,
possible what's going on right now, right? It's not possible.
Yeah.
We're in a pendulum.
My that held true up until recent
right
time.
But that's the thing about glass is and like a lot of things, like there's diamonds, there's rubies out there, there's all these things, and while all things in life can somewhat be like valuable, nothing's like art. Nothing is going to go up because a human only lives once. A human can only make so many things. That particular human can only do so many things, and that particular person only made that one thing one time at life. So that's the neat thing, I think, as people realize, like, a diamond is cool and it'll last forever, but so will a fucking piece of glass, right? As long as you don't break it. And the difference is it is like the human mandala or something. There's love that goes into each and everything, because a blower is somewhat crazy, stupid, whatever, because it's the hardest fucking thing I've ever done. And so I think when people understand what it is to become with, that's where the value really starts to come in the glass world. And you've seen it happen as this renaissance happens with glass.
Totally. Yeah. And yeah, that's what you kind of mentioned, point that I found fascinating about glass. It is the most unforgiving medium. Like I could like paint all over a painting, and I could like, Bob Ross it and happy mistakes and create a masterpiece out of a spilling. But it's like, I like sneeze on a piece of glass and it cracks. It's like, that's done.
I guess maybe some kind of relief sculpture, like, creating the Michael, and you're chipping it and you knock off the cock or something, and you're just like, oh, right? Like, so I mean,
epoxy.
Yeah, you could epoxy glass, man. It cracks, it's done. Like, you got to know so much. You got to know temperaments, the chemistry. I just think I love glass for that.
It's so fascinating. Yeah. And I really feel like my glass journey in understanding of how it flows and moves and all that is just kind of beginning.
And that's a meditation. With you doing yoga and the mandala as a meditation, do you find that glass blowing is its own type of meditation? And then when you can combine, the mandalas.
Totally. There's totally, I always say there's different types of meditation. You can meditate with your eyes open. You can meditate with your eyes closed. You can meditate on an object, or you can meditate on all objects going by. So, you can find it in anything. There's meditations where people stare into fire. You know what I mean? Or sky gazing, or forest gazing, or soaking, whatever. There's different language to call these things, but yeah, just staring into the fire. It's like, when I first started, it was like, I just get lost in the melting of the glass and forget what I'm doing. It's like, what is even going on? Like, what am I trying to do here?
I still find that as one of the neatest things is, working the piece of glass, and as the minerals are in there, just watching the color. Like Elvis goes from clear and then changes back, and or like orange will be orange and then it turns black or dark red. And it's nuts that even in there, only the artist gets to see these crazy things happen, and the end person doesn't get to see it. They only see it in the cool state.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I've glass is the most fascinating thing. Since I started really blowing glass on the everyday, like my dreams are about blowing glass, like work, like how glass flows and things like that. Like if I'm working on a seal or something like that, it's like, you know, that night, it's like I'll have dreams about exactly the timing of in which, you know, that flow of glass works. And, you know, when we dream and we sleep, that's when we process,
Do you feel
our day.
Do you feel over time that maybe as glass has taken you over, like if you go out and have a conversation with somebody, it becomes more difficult because all you care about is glass?
It's already happened.
Right. Like it's strange, right? If you don't know glass, I can't talk to you.
Yeah.
I don't know.
My full obsession right now is glass. The only thing that I can seem to like really break that obsession is a newer obsession that I got into, which is over the past couple of years, which is snowboarding. So, you know, I was always obsessed with my art too. Everything revolved around my art, like my living and breathing art for years. And so, you know, just finding snowboarding just to get out on a mountain, I lose thought of all like glass, all art for a couple of days. And like, that's been a really like awesome reset that I can find a different human connection with someone other than in glass right now. It's like, right. Like those two things are pretty much my kind of like, you know, obsession right now, which I feel like they're really good. I still do my yoga and I still like teach mostly privates via Zoom right now. There's a couple studios in town here I might reach out to and try to move back into doing that. But glass is just like, is that obsession. It's like, oh, why would I want to break up my day when I could just spend 12 hours blowing glass?
Yeah. Do you get to collaborate often with people now? Especially doing kind of what you do.
Yeah. That's been a really cool thing. I kind of like I kind of been holding off to build up my glass skills, and just figure out, you know, my own, you know, techniques and designs and things. And so making my own, you know, I carve mostly on blue caramel, or some sort of caramel or something like that. So like my blue caramel, you know, I roll up a tube and frit and stuff like that. So if I do collaborate, I get to make these, you know, sections and hand off to someone, and then they'll piece together and send it back to me to carve. So yeah, I've really been trying to just tap into that. I have more glass artists that are friends than like I have friends in any other medium. And so I'm kind of just starting to tap into those like resources a little bit. I did my most recent collab was with Slob Glass. He made a couple of Sherlocks for me, and I carved those up. And then
and that worked the same where you made the prep, he finished it, and then you carved it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, exactly. He did have some Blue Moon. We did a collab in Blue Moon, and he had some old tubing laying around. That was the only different. I'm gonna send some blue caramel up to Kevin over at Witch Doctor. I've just been chatting with him and Witch Doctor Studios, and so that was something I most recently worked on. Like yesterday, I made all that prep. Yeah, it's really cool to kind of tap into those.
That sounds really awesome.
Collaborating in glass is like honestly like the coolest thing I think about glass. It's just like where two artists can really just mesh together, and like you can see like different styles. I've done a few painting collabs and stuff, and it works out, but it's just like, it's just more, I feel like that like the minds just kind of collide a little more. Like, oh, I see it like this way, I see it that way. And it's like, typically you have like one canvas and you're like, you know, oh, this is what we're doing. Like
you can't take the two different canvases and then meld them together. Like with glass, you can. And while you can get separated, they tend to come back
Totally.
together in glass.
Yeah, you cut out a little bit, but I got you.
Sorry. Yeah, sometimes
Perfect.
you come back together in glass. Like the idea is when you're collaborating, they go away, and then the preps can come back, and then it just reforms in the two
Like
minds.
even if we don't necessarily like agree on like, oh, like I have an idea for this pipe, and you're like, but I envision this. It's like it's very easy to be like, okay, well, you make that one with this prep and do that. I'll shape out this one like this with this prep, and it's like boom, like we can both get what we want like very easily, and it's like the ideas can just really fuse and mesh and create something that couldn't exist without two minds coming together.
Right.
And that's what I love about collaboration. It creates community. It creates, I like to think about it as like a conversation piece. Like, oh, I'm sick. I got to have a conversation with this artist. Like, I see it, back and forth.
It is. And it's so beautiful. Not only get to know that person or realize that you really hate that person. I'm kidding. But what you get to do is like, you both grow so much because you'll share, you'll learn one technique from another because each person is grown in different environments. They come together and there's usually, I find, a lot of learning and skill and spiritually. So it's really cool to work collabs if you can work them together as well.
Yeah. Doing the carving and stuff, I like to personally do most of my carving at home. I built out like a bench with a sink, nice drip system.
It's comfortable.
It's very comfortable. It makes it easy, like my cleanup and stuff. Carving glass is nasty, like creating that dust and just like, toxic water and stuff. So it's just like, it makes it a little more difficult to be like, oh, like I'm gonna hang out in the studio and we can jam out next to each other. But as like more of a beginner glass blower, I take that opportunity if I can, is like watch that artist like make a piece with my prep.
Right. And then you get to learn there.
Exactly. And it's just like I really get a lot out of that, whether it's just like little tiny like connections or finesses and
and that's what I love when I got to meet you is like, because you are a fairly newer blower in the scene and whatnot, but you're really figuring out how to get out there. Your art is amazing, and so you're using all these things to grow yourself and to grow your skill set and get out there. And I think it's great.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Just kind of having my own style in my art. Like when you looked at like a painting or you looked at something else I created, another product, you could look at it and be like, oh, like that's Corey, or that's decalcified or whatever. So it's like, I really like that in the sense of like glass is I can already see how to make this thing unique in my own. I just have to like, execute the steps, almost flawlessly as I can.
Right.
So, and then, the carving, I can just really express like those mandalas and my uniqueness to it. There's some other faceting techniques that I've been playing with a little bit with fuming and faceting with that. And it's not your normal style, like diamond faceting. It's more like different, like concave faceting and stuff. I've only made a few pieces. I don't want to too into it, but
what do you mean concave? So it's actually curving in like this or something, huh?
Yeah, exactly. So there's different angles, cuts, different faceting just means cutting glass. So it's just, any form of cut, I like to think of it. I've been studying a lot of like the crystal cutting, like what you'd see in your grandma's like crystal cabinet or like old ashtrays, like kind of like that style cuts and patterns, just to add to the blue caramel stuff. Because there's a lot of people that there's a few people that do that already, and I feel like via Instagram I see it like maybe a little more in my feeds or whatever.
Have you ever thought about that you mentioned the cutting crystal? I think they use some kind of machine, right, where it just spins one way And they
it's called a carving lathe. It's called a glass lathe, actually. Most Boro people get it confused with like an actual lathe, but it's called a glass lathe. But if like any soft glass people, they know exactly what you're talking about when you mention a glass lathe. But yeah, I do have something that's kind of like a glass lathe. It's called a carving arbor. The machine I have is extinct. They don't make it anymore. But you can kind of change out different bits to it. You can add in big wheels like that too. The kind of stuff I do is a little more fine detail to like make kind of stand out and do a little bit my own unique cuts.
Right.
But that's what I've been really like doing. I fume on the inside and then I cut on the outside. And like if you hit the light, the cuts give shadow onto the fume. So it just really gives this really cool depth and stuff. Yeah, so that's kind of a technique that I've only made a few pieces with. It's been in my back of my mind of like how I've been doing. I've been reading a few books on it, investing in the machine, investing in the bits, like
going down the rabbit hole, it sounds like.
Yeah, exactly. I love the caramel, carving into the caramel and adding that, but I'm just trying to add my own unique details to it to like, stand out a little more. There's a few different artists that like do different cuts in glass, and so I'm like with my own style, like fusing a few different artists' styles together to make my own.
Right. Do you find you get inspiration sometimes from other artists as well as like your mandala and stuff like that?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I learned early on is like artists are the best people to get inspiration and ideas from. Like this like, faceting stuff that I was kind of talking about, like Boom Falaise gave me the idea, to do that. He's like, oh, I see you doing that, have you ever looked into this, like I've never even heard of that, but like, so I went down a rabbit hole. So like, it's probably been like 9 months since we had that conversation. So it's like, I feel like I can't go back and hang out with him until like
until you got some jewel to bring.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. He implemented the things he told me to work on and to like check out. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think art. Going back to that workshop I was telling you about with Paul Houston, what he said that has really stuck to me is all great art is created in groups. Like the 16th Chapel wasn't, but one was Da Vinci or
Angelo,
oh my God.
I think.
Yeah.
But right, it was a group of people that painted that.
Exactly. And then it wasn't him like sitting on scaffolding going like this, like painting. It was like using techniques like stencils and putting stencils up on the ceiling to transfer images, and then having people, up there painting it. He was just like the mass artist. And so I think I take that to heart. Like the best pieces are the coolest pipes I like are typically collabs.
Absolutely. It pulled it kind of gets like people are competitive, I think, right? So even though you're coming in as a collaborator, you're there to work together, yet almost in a sense outcompete each other. And I think that's a lot how people go. They're just trying to say, okay, well, what can we do to make this our best piece ever on both of us? And there's some kind of competition that happens in the collaboration. It just pulls the greatness from both people out.
Totally. And then even for like artists to like, drop the artist's ego, which I feel like, most artists have of some sort, ego not being bad, but, that's like what drives us. Mm-hmm. But, putting it in check sometimes and being like, letting somebody else guide us. Example in the glass scene, I feel like is a perfect example is what Hoob's Glass is doing with Studio 33. Like, you don't get masterpieces like that without artists coming together and putting minds together. And it's not like, oh, like I run the show or this. It's like no one's claiming that. You could see what's happening, but it's like everyone's surrendered to just like.
Well, he's like Michelangelo. He sees the vision and he's getting people to come in and just blow these things out of the water.
Yeah. Oh, you're good at that. You're good at that. It's like, boom, fuse them together. And it's like you create something that wouldn't exist, couldn't exist. And that's what happens with like, you know, beautiful paintings in, you know, a temple. It's like, there's not just like one artist, you know, painting it typically, like in spiritual like settings.
Like that work of art you have behind you. It was a collaboration.
Oh, the coolest wall art I've ever created was not created by just me. Like I had to have a collaboration to, you know, to make something like that. So that's what I like love great about glass is that collaboration aspect to it. And, you know, I can have these cool conversations and like, you know, I can sustain myself a little more with my art, like selling prints and merch and all that, and just trying to survive off of that has like, it's extremely hard. I always had to do something to subsidize my like income a little bit.
It's hard being an artist. That's why nobody should ever take it as insult when I say, how'd you get into this? Being a glassblower is crazy and stupid. Like it's hard work. I mean, how many times does shit go in the water bowl? I mean, to keep doing that over, that's stupid. Like
constantly. Yeah. I spent like 3 days trying to make this beautiful glass for my mom's birthday, like a week ago. And like the first one, I had like the handles all beautiful, pink and purple, gold fume in it. And then like it just cracked. So then I tried to heal it, and then I'm chasing it and crack, and then just like trash. And then I like tried it like 2 more times, and like the second time just exploded on me. And then the third time it cracked again before I could even like get as far. And so I was just like, you know what? I gotta like step back, give up that for right now, and just like focus on some other stuff. Cause it was just
find cups are one of the most challenging things because it's a big vessel. It's quite big. Sometimes your wall thicknesses, you know, the bottom will get really thick. That's usually where you're punnied. So you got all these heat fucking issues there. To get the lips is freaking like I find cups are one of the most challenging things for me to make. I love cups.
Totally. Yeah. And you know, I'm doing it by hand too. So it adds a little
even harder.
Yeah, then a lathe a little bit. I haven't ever worked on a lathe, but
I use a lathe because they're fucking hard by hand.
Yeah. Yeah, it gets heavy and it's like this big handle. It's like, well, and I just have a tiny kiln. I just have a little chili pepper. Jen Ken. You know, I actually just found like a steal of one, like a micro mini thing. So I'll have these 2 small kilns to work out.
I will say, man, I forget what I started with, but I have, I think 6 or 7 Paragon F120s. I think they're some of the best kilns ever. I've never had to replace any elements in any of them. Some of them are 16 years old. I love Paragon. I'll put that out there. They don't pay me, but I love them. As long as you get a Mercury switch, fuck their other shit. Like you got to get a Mercury switch.
Okay. Yeah, I would really like to, you know, in the next year or so, upgrade my kiln situation to. I really like the Paragons. The Bluebird is like nice and tiny, perfect for prep work. But even this like the F120?
Yeah.
Those, I think that's what I first ever worked in and stuff.
They're really nice and tall, so you can make tall stuff. They're pretty far deep. They're not ridiculously big. They're fucking workhorse, man. Like,
yeah. Yeah. I think I know in the next year I'll be upgrading kind of some of my situation, but like that. But I'm just kind of working with what I got.
Those chili peppers I heard are great. I've heard a lot of people have them. And
oh yeah, they're little workhorses themselves. There's the lowest pulling kiln. Like you can, I think it's like 950 watts or something like that.
Oh wow!
I've heard of people running like a full 8-hour annealing cycle off of one tank of gas in the like a Harbor Freight, 1,000-watt generator.
Oh wow!
Maybe it was 2,000 or something, but it was just one tank of gas. So they run really great. It's tiny. It's built out of toolbox, little red toolbox. Red's not necessarily my favorite aesthetic, so it's nice and bright red in my studio where everything is like black and gold.
Right.
But yeah, it's really cool.
Hell yeah. Do you find you still have the same love and passion today as when you first started?
I think I have more of an obsession really since when I first started like getting on the torch, and now that I have my own torch and my own setup, it's just like it's when's
your girlfriend gonna leave you?
She's very supportive.
Nice.
Because she really liked one of my sweatshirts, and she bought a sweatshirt off me, and then we kind of chatted and found out that she just moved back into the area. She was teaching at some of the like 2 yoga studios I was teaching at. So that's kind of we connected over our art, and then had all these other similarities. And
that's awesome.
She's like, oh, like you're so obsessed with glass. Like, she kind of
knew what she was getting into, basically.
A little bit. When we dated, she didn't understand like the obsession wasn't like as a parent.
Right. I'll be there in 20 minutes, and 2 or 3 hours sneaks by like, sorry.
Yeah. But she's really got to see, like, it's just her and I out here. I have a few friends in town, but it's like, I'll go like 3 days without leaving my house because my garage is like right next to my kitchen. So it's like, boom, all right there that I need, food in my studio.
Nice.
So like every time I make something new, I'm like, babe, come here, look at this. Like, or if like she like comes in the garage, I'm like, come look in the kiln.
But you need a support team and everything, it's life's fun with somebody.
She is so supportive of it all, and it's really cool when she sees like a new piece that like the collabs. I feel like I always get her because they're like a lot nicer, the glasses, than typically what I make personally, where I'm at. And so it's like in this glass she's never seen before. So it's like colors and patterns, whoever I'm working with. So it's really cool to see her get stoked on these things. And just her like everyone has their names and stuff like that. So it's like, it's just fun, like talking glass names with someone that's not used to them.
Yeah. Where's the best place where we can find your art to get do you have Instagram, Facebook, website? What's head shops? What's the best place to find your art?
Well, my Instagram is definitely a great portfolio. I do have a website. It's Corky's Designs. I have a lot of like more merch and paintings on there. I like take stuff on and off depending on the flow. I really haven't done much with it since holiday season, so I gotta probably update some products on there. But yeah, mostly Instagram. There's a couple of head shops I've kind of like spread out.
But hit you up on your website if you're looking for some, or anybody who's looking to do some collaboration and they want you to
collaborations. DM me decalcified. My website, I don't really have glass. I don't really like to sell direct. I really like to just focus on like making stuff and like selling to shops, and I just really like that
those shops can really give a customer the unique attention that they deserve. Whereas like we're the artists and we want to do it, but it's like, yo, motherfucker, I got a piece of art I'm doing. so they don't get the attention that you want to give them. Whereas that shop does, as well as the shop gets to expand the person's mind to new artists. And that's why I really love shops, because they're, you know, an artist can only show them kind of their stuff and it's their world, but a shop gets to expand their brains into more artists and stuff. So that's really awesome to work with shops.
Yeah, and I don't want to compete with the shops. Like the shops have ended up supporting me, like buying my prints for my other art and like supporting me in that realm. So just like, I just would much rather keep that relationship going than like, oh, just trying to get the most amount I can for this one item.
Right.
It's like, I'd rather make 100 of those items, and like it turns into like a relationship. Like, you know,
I was just thinking that
together, you know what I mean? Like, I love, like, goes back to collaboration. I love making money with my friends.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing more satisfying than me. Like, we are like making money and like hanging out with friends and like surviving and living and thriving. It's like,
that's, you know, cool shit for sure, man.
When your friends thrive, you thrive. So, you know, I just like to try to surround myself with people that have that type of motivation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've tried to, you know, wean out the people that aren't as motivated in that. It's not like I would like, you know, go.
It's not that they're bad. It's just they have a
exactly.
different fire under them than you do.
Exactly. It's like if you want to, it's like you want to be, if you think, if you're the smartest person in the room, then you need to find a different room.
Right. And I heard that a long time ago. You'll succeed if you always surround yourself with people better than you.
Exactly.
Which is hard for those people, because now they just surrounded themselves with you. So it's kind of this like, get in where you fit in.
I feel like it's weaned into our industry too, with like that sharing of knowledge. It's like, if someone's doing it right, then they're surrounding themselves with people that are better than them, and then they're getting a bunch of information. And if they're doing the right thing, I feel like then there's probably someone at a different level at them that they're sharing that knowledge with.
Absolutely.
Like that and so it's like, I can fill your cup because these other people are helping fill my cup. And so It's just like, you're spreading the love. You know what I mean?
I love that. Let's end it right there. Spread the love, man. Because I think, you know, at this time in just life, not always this time, but anything, we need to spread the love. We got some crazy shit going on in Europe right now. There needs to be love, man, because, man, love heals. Love's everything. So
yeah, it's I feel like you can feel it in pieces. Like, the pieces that sell and go the most for me are the pieces that I put like the love and the most love into, and the pieces that are like made and I'm like thinking about like a dollar sign the entire time, and like it just never comes out the way you want it, or if it's glass, it'll just break on you. But but if it's other art or something like that, it'll just like, it just ends up like collecting dust somewhere. So yeah, spread the love, share it.
Spread the love.
Yeah, thank you so much for this opportunity.